My parents raised me to believe family sacrifices are sacred, but after what they forced me to give up, I can't even look them in the eye anymore. The betrayal still burns every time I breathe. I worked myself to the bone, juggling 2 jobs, pouring every ounce of energy into keeping my younger sister's dream alive, only for her to turn around one day and call me a loser. And let me tell you, she did not see it coming when I finally cut her off and told everyone exactly why her picture-perfect lifestyle came crashing down. When Lauren, my little sister, got into her dream college, you'd think she had cured world hunger. My parents couldn't stop bragging, their faces practically glowing with pride. Lauren, of course, was already making grand speeches about the career she'd have, the life she'd build. And me? I was standing in the background, calculating in silence, because I knew exactly where this was headed. See, my parents didn't have the money. They made sure to sprinkle hints into every family conversation. My mom would sigh dramatically and say things like, "College is just so expensive these days. If only we could do more," then she'd glance right at me, like I hadn't already connected the dots. And here's the thing, I didn't have much myself. I was working as a mechanic, busting my knuckles on engines while saving what little I could for a house. But Lauren was my sister. She was so full of hope, and I thought, what's the harm in helping a little? At first, it was just textbooks. A bag of groceries here and there. But slowly, it escalated. Before long, I was covering her rent, her utilities, even her weekend de-stress outings. And every time she came asking for money, there was always some excuse. "I'll pay you back once I graduate." Or, "Mom and Dad just can't help right now, but you understand, right?" What made it worse? My parents treated it like my duty. "Family takes care of family," they'd say, as if I wasn't already tearing myself apart working 2 jobs. Meanwhile, Lauren strutted around like the world revolved around her. Fancy dinners. Weekend trips. Instagram stories with captions like, "Work hard, play harder," while the only one working hard was me. I kept telling myself it was temporary. That once she graduated, she'd thank me. Maybe even help me get back on track. But deep down, resentment was building. My life was on pause. Hers was in full motion. And I was the engine powering it. The first crack in my patience came with her spending habits. While I was skipping meals and pulling double shifts, she was posting about designer handbags, trendy heels, bougie restaurants. Things I wouldn't dream of buying for myself. At first, I told myself maybe she had a part-time job. Or maybe she was exaggerating online. But when I finally asked her, she just waved it off. "Everyone at school dresses like this. I don't want to look out of place." It wasn't just the money. It was everything. She treated me like her personal ATM. Never once asked how I was. Never wondered if I needed help. My parents weren't any better. Every time I tried to talk about how much I was struggling, they shut me down. "She's your sister. She's building a future. You should be proud to help." But it wasn't helping anymore, it was full-blown sacrifice. My weekends? Gone. My savings? Gone. The house I dreamed of? Forget it. And Lauren? She didn't even send a thank you text. No. She'd call me just to complain about professors, roommates, cafeteria food. Always her struggles. Never mine. The resentment I'd shoved down was bubbling up. I was exhausted from being treated like my life didn't matter as long as hers looked perfect. The breaking point? Oh, it came. One evening, Lauren casually mentioned she was thinking about studying abroad. She didn't ask. She announced it. "I think it would be such a great experience," she said over the phone, her voice so carefree. "The program costs a little more, but come on, it's once in a lifetime, right?" I remember gripping the phone so hard I thought it would snap. I could barely keep her afloat as it was. And now she wanted me to fund a semester abroad? When I went to my parents, hoping they'd finally come to their senses, they didn't just side with her, they doubled down. "This is an incredible opportunity," my mom said. "You'll figure it out. You always do." I was stunned. No concern for me. No recognition of what I'd already sacrificed. Just the same expectation, keep carrying her. Keep breaking yourself down. And at the same time, Lauren's jabs became sharper. She'd laugh about how I was always working. Joke that I was married to my job. Little digs that stung more than she realized. One night, while venting to a coworker on break, I laid it all out. And they just shook their head and said, "She doesn't appreciate you. You bend over backwards, and she acts like you owe her." And for the very first time, I let myself wonder if they were right. Family dinner. It was supposed to be just a casual get-together. My parents invited me over, said it would be nice to catch up. And since Lauren was back in town on her school break, I figured, fine. I can stomach a few hours. But the second I walked in, I knew I'd made a mistake. The whole atmosphere was already lopsided. My parents were practically orbiting around Lauren, fussing over her classes, her friends, her future, asking if she needed anything else for school. Meanwhile, I sat there, quiet, waiting, hoping maybe someone, anyone, would ask how I was doing. But of course, that moment never came. Halfway through dinner, Lauren brought it up again, the study abroad program. She launched into a whole speech about how amazing it was going to be, how all her friends were already planning theirs. Then she looked right at me and smirked. "I hope you're ready for a little extra work, big brother. These programs don't come cheap." I froze. She actually said that. Out loud. In front of everyone. Like my life, my sacrifices, were just a blank check. I tried to play it off. "Maybe you should get a part-time job," I said, forcing a laugh. She didn't even blink. She just laughed, right in my face. "Me? A part-time job? That's funny. I'm way too busy with school." And that was it. The last straw. I set my fork down, leaned across the table, and stared straight at her. You're joking, right? You actually think I'm going to keep funding your lifestyle forever while you sit around doing nothing? The room went dead silent. My parents stared at me like I'd just cursed in church. Lauren's jaw dropped, but only for a second. She recovered quickly, and then she fired back. What's your problem? You've always been so bitter. Just because your life isn't going anywhere doesn't mean you get to take it out on me. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. After everything, after years of working 2 jobs, killing myself to keep her afloat, that's what she thought of me? A failure? I could feel my blood boiling, but I refused to let her have the last word. Bitter? I leaned forward. You think I'm bitter because my life isn't going anywhere? My life isn't going anywhere because I've been too busy funding yours. My parents immediately jumped in. My mom's voice snapped like a whip. That's inappropriate. You're her brother. It's your job to support her. My job? I let out a bitter laugh. Since when did it become my job to work myself to the bone so she could live in luxury? Since when did it become my job to sacrifice my entire future so hers could be handed to her on a silver platter? Lauren rolled her eyes and muttered, "Oh, there it is. The martyr routine." And that was it. I was done. I stood up, pushed my chair back, and said, "You know what? Go ahead, call me a failure, Lauren. But at least I worked for everything I have. What have you done? Nothing. You sit there spending my money while acting like you're better than me." Then I turned to my parents. "And you too? You're no better. You've enabled her selfishness every step of the way. Well, I'm done. I'm not paying for anything anymore. Not her rent, not her tuition, nothing." The silence was deafening. Lauren's face went pale. For the first time, she actually looked shocked. "You can't do this," she stammered. Her voice shook. "How am I supposed to live?" I grabbed my jacket and looked her dead in the eyes. "Figure it out. I've been doing it for years. Maybe it's time you learned how." I walked out of that house feeling a wild mix of anger and relief. For the first time, I'd stood up for myself. But I also knew the fallout was coming. And sure enough, it didn't take long. The next morning, my phone exploded with texts. First from Lauren. Passive-aggressive at first, "Thanks for ruining dinner. Hope you feel good about leaving your sister out to dry." When I ignored her, she shifted to guilt trips. "You're really going to leave me like this? After everything I've been through?" But I held the line. If she wanted to play the victim, she could do it without me. Then my parents got involved. My mom called, her voice dripping with disappointment. "I don't know what's gotten into you. Lauren needs your help. She's your sister." "She's been my financial responsibility for years," I snapped. "It's time for her to grow up." My dad wasn't any better. Later that day, he called and said, "You're being selfish. You're punishing her for no reason. What's she going to do now?" "Get a job," I said flatly. "Like the rest of us." The kicker came that same week. I got a call from Lauren's landlord. Apparently, she told him I was the one who paid her rent, and when the payment didn't go through, he called me directly. "She's not my problem anymore," I told him. "You'll have to talk to her." That must have rattled her, because a few days later, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked completely different. No confident smirk, no entitled posture. Just messy, panicked, desperate. "You can't just cut me off," she blurted the second I opened the door. "Yes, I can," I said, leaning against the frame. She shifted on her feet, like a kid caught lying. She wasn't used to hearing, "No, not from me. Not from anyone." "You don't understand," she said, her voice rising. "If you don't help me, I'll lose my apartment. I can't move back home, Mom and Dad don't have room for me." "Not my problem," I replied flatly. Her jaw dropped. "Not your problem? You're my brother." I stepped closer. "For years, I've been more than that. I've been your safety net. Your bank. Your excuse to avoid growing up. I worked 2 jobs so you could live your dream. And the one time I asked for respect, you called me a failure. So no, Lauren, it's not my problem anymore." She blinked, stunned, like she couldn't process the words. "I didn't mean it like that," she stammered. I was upset. I wasn't thinking. "That's the problem," I shot back. "You never think. You never think about anyone but yourself. You used me. You used Mom and Dad. And now you're panicking because, for once, you actually have to deal with the consequences." That's when she broke. Big, dramatic sobs, the kind that might have worked on me before. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. "You're not going to guilt me into changing my mind," I told her. "You need to figure this out yourself. Get a job. Budget. Do whatever it takes, but leave me out of it." Her tears turned to anger. "You're being cruel," she snapped. "Family helps each other. That's what family does." I shook my head. "No. Family supports each other. They don't take advantage of each other and call it love. And until you figure that out, don't come back here." Then I closed the door, cutting her off mid-excuse. And for the first time, I felt like I was finally in control of my life again. After I closed the door on Lauren, I knew it wasn't over. She wasn't the type to suffer in silence. If anything, I was certain she'd spin this into a sob story and parade it straight to our parents. And sure enough, the very next day, my phone rang. Mom started in with her favorite weapon, guilt. "How could you do this to your sister?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "She's struggling, and you abandoned her when she needed you most." I didn't sugarcoat it. "Struggling?" I snapped. "She's been living off my paycheck for years while acting like she's the queen of the world. Maybe it's time she actually learned what struggling feels like." That's when Dad jumped in, accusing me of being heartless and ungrateful for everything they'd supposedly done for me. And honestly, I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Ungrateful? Are you kidding me?" I said. I've been funding Lauren's lifestyle while you two sat back and treated her like she was the next big thing. Meanwhile, I've been breaking my back, working myself half to death just to keep her comfortable. The more I laid it out, the quieter they got. By the end of the call, the only thing they could muster was that I was tearing the family apart. Right. Because standing up for myself after years of being used makes me the villain. And Lauren? Oh, her meltdown was dramatic. She plastered her social media with vague posts like, "Some people only care about themselves," and "Being let down by those closest to you is the hardest pain to bear." Then, get this, she actually started a GoFundMe page for her rent. Claimed she'd been blindsided by some unexpected expense. The audacity. And of course, her friends flooded the comments with sympathy. "I'm so sorry, hun, is there anything we can do?" But the donations? They barely trickled in. Turns out, the world isn't as eager to bankroll her lifestyle as I was. Meanwhile, the family gossip machine went into overdrive. My aunt called me after hearing I was being unreasonable. But once I explained the truth, she was stunned. "She really expected you to keep paying her rent?" she asked, disbelief dripping from her voice. "Welcome to my world," I told her. But my parents weren't done. No, they actually showed up at my door. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just Lauren's entitlement anymore. It was the whole family propping it up. They treated her problems like they were mine to solve. And they didn't stop at guilt. My mother took it a step further, spinning the story that I had failed Lauren. Suddenly, cousins and distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years were blowing up my phone with messages like, "Family comes first," and "It's not fair to let her struggle." But as the days dragged on, I started hearing things. The cracks were showing. Word got back to me that Lauren had been evicted and slunk back home to my parents. And of course, she expected to be coddled there too. One mutual friend told me, laughing, "She's complaining about the food at home. Said your parents don't cook her real meals." I couldn't help but shake my head. Apparently, Lauren even joked that maybe they should hire someone to take care of her, since I wasn't around anymore. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right call. If my parents wanted to drain their savings to enable her, fine. That was their choice. But I wasn't going to burn myself out any longer for someone who couldn't even muster a simple, "Thank you." Lauren's spiral only worsened. Living back at home, being babied like a child, while my parents doubled down on blaming me for everything. To hear them tell it, I'd committed some heinous crime by finally cutting her off. She even spread lies through the family, telling anyone who would listen that I had abandoned her during her darkest time. Conveniently leaving out the years she leached off me while flaunting her privilege like it was her birthright. And it wasn't just her finances collapsing, it was her social life too. Word of her GoFundMe scam spread, and the same friends who once tagged along to her fancy dinners now wanted nothing to do with her. Without me footing the bill, Lauren had nothing to offer them. And for the first time in years, I wasn't the one paying the price. The tipping point came with a phone call. My parents' voices were frantic, panicked. Apparently, Lauren had gone and done the unthinkable. She'd maxed out a credit card in their name. Thousands of dollars. All for a shopping spree. Designer bags. Clothes. Shoes. The works. And now? They couldn't keep up with the payments. They begged me. Begged. Pleaded for me to step in, to help them cover the debt. And honestly, I laughed. I couldn't help it. After years of defending her, enabling her, vilifying me for daring to speak up, they actually had the audacity to come crawling back. "This is your mess to clean up," I told them firmly. "You chose to support her. You chose to ignore her behavior. Now you get to deal with the consequences." For once, they didn't argue. Maybe, finally, it sank in that I wasn't going to swoop in and rescue them. Not this time. Not ever again. That was the last I heard from either of them. And honestly, it was freeing. I moved on. Started rebuilding my life. Slowly, painfully, but without their constant drama weighing me down. It took years to undo the damage they'd caused, but I came out stronger for it. As for Lauren? The last I heard, she was still living with my parents. Still stuck in that same cycle of entitlement, excuses, and denial. Part of me, just a small part, felt sorry for them. For all of them. Stuck in a mess they created with their own choices. But mostly, I felt relief. Because they had made their bed. And now, they had to lie in it.